Let's do it. I'm ready.
Well, I don't really know how to approach it with you being from America, so I'll just start where I normally start with how old are you, Bruno?
I'm 54. I'm going to be 55 years old, Darren.
So I take that you're born in the what, the 60s, 70s?
68. April 6th, 68.
So you're 10 years older than me.
Yeah, I'm an old guy, brother.
So where was you, where in America, I'm not too familiar with it. Where was you born in America?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and moved out to Las Vegas right after I came home from the army. Then I went back and forth from Vegas to New York, and I ended up in Arizona. I spent a good part of 20 plus years in Arizona, a lot of it in the joint. And then when I finally got out of prison and I decided to straighten my life out, uh, about about 6 years after I got out of prison, I moved down to Mississippi, right south of Memphis, Tennessee, and built myself a brand new home.
And is that where you're based now?
Yeah, I'm in Coldwater, Mississippi, which is about 30 miles south of Memphis in the woods.
Sounds nice. When you mentioned the military, what
Yeah.
how old was you when you went into the military?
Well, I signed in when I was 17. My father was a World War II Screaming Eagle from, he was a World War II veteran. And I was having a lot of problems as a kid, bro. I was a drug addict and, I was always in trouble. So he signed me in at 17 on the delayed entry program for the Army. And I went in the day I turned 18.
How long did you remain in the military then, mate?
I was there for 3 years. I was over there in Europe, in your neck of the woods. I was in Germany.
So did that take it away from like your addictions and was it your lifesaver basically in a sense?
I was telling Sean in one of our interviews, the Army was the biggest mistake of my life leaving it. You know what I mean? It saved me. It taught me how to be a man. It taught me you know, uh, how to cope with different situations. I feel like a lot of what the military did for me saved my life in prison many, many times. You know what I mean?
So you went in for 3 years, which made you leave. You left at 21. What happened
Right.
after you left? What was you in employment? What direction was your life going in?
Well, like I've said before, when I went back home to Brooklyn, uh, I went in the wrong direction. I went back to work for the wise guys in my neighborhood. Got addicted to cocaine again. Not saying that I wasn't addicted before, just wasn't around it. You know what I mean? And working in the bars and just basically lingering. You know what I mean? Wanting to be a wise guy, wanting to be a gangster, but I was never good at it. What I was good at was doing drugs. I was good at fighting people and, all the wrong stuff. So my savior was my godfather, who actually put me in the electricians union. And for those next couple of years, I did pretty well learning how to be an electrician. Again, coming out of prison, that was my saving grace.
So you had a little. So the drugs, have they been consistent in your life in your early adult years then?
My whole life, brother. Fortunately, well, there's an unfortunate and a fortunate to that. So, to just jump ahead a little bit before I, tell you about my escapades, when I was locked up in Colorado prison, um, I had I had gotten into a pretty big brawl with probably six guys from Colorado, and I was sitting in the hole. This was 2011, and I got a knock on my window. Hey, Bruno, you want a phone call? Your mother's dead. So when I got that knock on my window, that was the turnaround in my life. I sat in that cell by myself, and Sean will attest to this because he's been in that spot. You know, with just me and my thoughts, brother. And losing my mother was my turnaround for my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me bring you back a bit then, Bruno. When you're saying the wise guys and you were doing bits for the wise guys, what do you mean by the wise guys? Because over here in the UK, we're used to watching like The Sopranos, and is that the same type of wise guys you're speaking about?
Oh yeah. So again, not to mention, you know, names in itself, but in Brooklyn where I grew up, you know, Anthony Ruggiano is from my neighborhood. Sean and I interviewed him. You know, I grew up with a lot of the Gambino crew. I grew up with a lot of Colombo crew. I worked in a bar as a young man, working for these wise guys. You know, they were all a part of a crew for, you know, the mafia. And I grew up emulating them, man. I wanted to be them. I wanted to do everything that they were doing. I wanted to make money. I wanted to snort all the coke, fuck all the broads. You know what I mean? I wanted to do everything. And again, wasn't really good at it because everything was about in the early days was doing drugs. Got really addicted, man.
So I'd like to just touch on the wise guy scenario. I don't want you to mention names or say the word that with the M because it's a bit powerful, isn't it? So
Sure.
in New York, Bronx is that where Little Italy is?
Manhattan is Little Italy, and I'm from Brooklyn. Bronx is another borough, Darren. There's 5 boroughs in the city of New York. You got Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and Staten Island. That's all a part of the city. Then you have New York State, which is what we call upstate New York. It's actually the, you know, a part of the United States because the city is a bunch of little islands connected with bridges and tunnels.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's similar to London to the rest of England, and it's like its own little. It's like a banking system of New York, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
What
You know,
about
you got a whole.
what about
Go
Hell's
ahead.
Kitchen?
Hell's Kitchen is in Manhattan.
Is it?
Hell's Kitchen, where the wise guys come from. You know, the Irish mob and the Westies. That's the west side of Manhattan. That's a really rough area, but that Hell's Kitchen itself and the west side where the Westies come from, that's Manhattan.
So, how old was you then when you moved away from the wise guys? If you like, when did you step away from that environment?
Well, when I went into the military when I was 18, I left, and I came back at 21. I stayed in Brooklyn probably from 21 to 25, and back and forth from New York to Vegas until I finally decided to stay out in Arizona.
So from Arizona, does your life start getting better when you're in Arizona?
Yeah, no, no. Well, to be honest with you, I've been all over the United States. I don't know if you know that little saying, anywhere you go, there you are. You know what I mean? You know, running from place to place, trying to get away from the drug addiction and, you know, the mess that your life is. No matter where I went, California, Colorado, New York, New Jersey, you know, I ended up getting locked up there one way or the other, whether I did a year in the county, went to prison. For about 23 years of my life, I was locked up either in prison, county jail, Rikers Island, Cook County, Illinois, Orange County, California. You know, so wherever I went, I started doing the same thing. The crime, the drugs, you know, everything just followed me no matter where I went.
So now you're touching on the prison system. I believe that's where you first met Sean, isn't it?
Yeah. So I wasn't really in the prison system when I met Sean. We were in the jail system. And
What's the difference? Sorry, mate. What's the difference between the jail system and the prison system? Like, is one
in America?
I've heard the
jail is
law.
remand. Jail is
What's the law?
remand, and prison is where you're sentenced. So it's different in America from the UK. So jail is unsentenced. Prison
Yeah.
is sentenced.
Right.
right.
So what's the difference between a federal prison and a normal prison, or is that the same?
Now, well, the federal system is when the United States government prosecutes you. The state prison system is when that particular state prosecutes you. So there's different statutes in the United States, different help me out here, Sean. I'm looking for the right word. So what happens is, depending on the enormity of your crime,
Yeah.
like
for example, depending on the severity of the crime or how much money involved in the crime, then the federal authorities will take over.
And if
correct,
the crime crosses state lines, so if you commit crimes within a state, then you're state. But if you're committing crimes in multiple states, like bank fraud or whatever, or like the mafia operate in multiple states, then it's federal. But the feds have got the most money. The states have got jack shit. So the states is just rough as fuck.
So go on then, Bruno. What? So you met him in jail, not prison.
Right. So I had just gotten into jail. We were in Arizona. We were locked up in Maricopa County, and it wasn't my first stop where I met Sean. I got into the system, and because of the type of crime I was arrested for, you have different custody levels in jail when you go, and they kind of assess, what your institutional risk is, what your crime is. Like, if you're in there for murder, you know what I mean? And the guy next to you is in there for, slapping his wife, or, cashing a bad check at the store, you know what I mean? They look at that and they try to put you in different custody levels. Like, you got low, you got medium, and then you got high. Yeah. So when I went into a low custody facility because of my crime. My crime was just white collar crime. I wasn't caught for any violent crimes up to that point in Arizona. So I went to a kind of a minimum facility, which was called Durango facility. And I lasted probably 6 hours in the pod there. There's no structure there. There's no nobody has any respect. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up knocking some guy out. They caught me right away because probably 12 people told on me. And I went to the hole. And then from the hole, I went to Towers Jail, which was where I met Mr. Atwood here, who was facing 200 years for being a drug kingpin.
And these guys, Darren, the neo-Nazis were running the whites. All of a sudden, Bruno and his mates showed up, and the boss of Bruno's mates, when we were all locked down at night, Roscoe, the boss he was outside with the guards smoking, giving them orders, and they come to me and they said, Sean, do you want your co-defendants to be your cellmates? I'm like, how can you do that? How can you do that? Oh, don't ask any questions. We'll do it. Next day, the guards bring my co-defendants, and I've got two of my mates in my cell with me. Wildman couldn't be housed with me, man. So they had the guards bring Wildman into our day room and just sit with us all day long. I'd never seen anything like it. I could not believe my eyes.
So Bruno, when you first come across this long, thin, bald-headed Englishman, what did you think?
Well, I got to tell you, Darren, when we first met, when you got to realize something, brother. When you walk in a place like this, all you have is the way you carry yourself, is the way you look at people. It's just, unless you've been in there, brother, you cannot understand the amount of stress and the amount of, just tension. You could just feel it when you walk in. And I walk into this pod, and there's Sean with this big goofy smile on his face, bald head, and just standing there like, "What's up, mate?" You know what I mean? I was like, "England, what's up, man?" You know what I mean? And Darren, you can't look at somebody like that and be upset. You know what I'm saying? You got to be like, "Come here, man. What is going on with you? What's going on here?"
When you met Sean, you must have met the big man Wildman then.
Oh man, that was my boy right there. And you know what, Darren? I touched on this with my first interviews with Sean, and you want to talk about a guy that demanded respect and just the presence. You know what I'm saying? So I know everybody was saying, "Oh, Wild Man, this," and you're blowing him up and this and that. But I'm here to tell you, brother, this guy, first of all, when I first met him, Sean will tell you, I loved this guy from the second I met him because I knew he was no bullshit. I knew that if he said something, he would do it. You know what I mean? And if I needed anything, that guy would probably break somebody's face open for me. Am I wrong, Sean? I mean, and I just met the guy. That's the type of guy he was. He was just, I don't know how to explain it, man. He's like this, just one of the greatest dudes I met in there, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know what to say, Sean. Take it from there, brother.
I was sat on the back row in Catholic Mass when they first met. We'd arranged a meeting, and they were sat either side of me, Darren, and they leant over to shake hands, and they shook hands so powerfully, I almost flew out my seat.
This guy he was incredible. Darren, did you know him? Did you talk to him?
I never got to meet him, mate. I never got to meet him before he passed away. Obviously, I'd watched him next to Sean doing his interviews and that, but I'd never had the opportunity to embrace his energy and have a little word with him. But it is what it is. It's one of them missed opportunities, I suppose.
Sure.
But when it comes to having balls, you've got to think about their situation, Sean's and Wildman, being in the USA, being in that type of prison, surrounded by like foreign people, if you like. It must have been a bit shaky.
The Americans love the English, Darren.
Oh man. Especially when you got a guy that, as quick as he look at you, Darren, this guy would knock you out, man. I mean, just, you're talking about no bullshit, demanding respect. And I'll tell you like this, I've witnessed where other guys would be like disrespecting a woman guard, and the guy would basically take their friggin' heads off. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter that she was a cop. You understand what I'm saying? That's type of dude he was.
You've got the morals inside, and you can recognise morals in people, and instantly, if people have got the morals, they've got your respect, basically, haven't they?
Absolutely. And the same thing goes for Sean when I met him. Like I said, he definitely didn't look like he fit in, but nobody does. But, the minute that me and my people, me and my friends, you know what I mean? We saw him and we just enveloped him because, number one, man, when you're in a situation like a jail or a prison, you always want to surround yourself with people, number one, that are smarter than you, and number two, that you could trust. Number three, that, damn well if Sean said, "Hey, man, I'm going to do this," it's done. So within 5 minutes, if you know how to read people, you could just tell that this guy's the salt of the earth. And I was a better guy in there for knowing him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, bro. I really appreciate that, man.
That's from the bottom of my heart, bro.
When we wake up in the morning, we get out of bed and we start our day with Coro snacks. Coro is a healthy snacks brand focusing on bringing additive-free, natural ingredients to their customers with fair prices in bulk packaging. They have everything from nut butters to free from baking ingredients to cooking essentials and, of course, the snacks. It doesn't get healthier than this because all those other snacks have refined sugars, colours, preservatives and additives. Coro snacks have none of that.
Oh, I can't wait. So I'm going to go for the Bio Energy Ball today.
Ooh,
Salty pistachio.
got a little chocolate bar here, I think.
Oh, the coconut chocolate bar.
Mmm.
Oh, that's good. Want to try it?
Ooh. So what makes Coro special in comparison to others? Coro avoids using sulfur, refined sugars, preservatives, colours and other additives. For a 5% discount on Coro's products, use the code TRUECRIME with no space in between true and crime. The link to Coro's online shop is in the description box on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor.
I think it's important that we have a little thought for Wildman, who's resting in the skies right now, because he was like Sean's right arm, and since the loss of him, it's sort of, I think it's left Sean in a little bit of a puzzle. He's coming through it now, but you could, a few months back, a year back when he first went, you could see Sean was at a loss in life. But I think that's very understandable, innit?
Yeah, and appreciate all the people in the comments putting RIP Wildman. Thank you for that.
Man, I got to tell you, I don't have many. For instance, Darren, let me just tell you something. So, when I first reconnected with Sean, my wife and I were sitting and we're watching TV, and his show, his documentary came up on I Was a Teenage Felon. And I said to my wife, I said, "That's my buddy Sean." She said, "Whatever, shut the fuck." She thinks I know everybody. You know what I mean? Within 6 hours of me emailing him, he emails me right back, "Brother." But I guess what I'm saying is that 20 years later, the bond that you have in the situation that we were in, it was like we never stopped talking. I could call this guy right now at 3:00 in the morning. "Sean, I know if you could get on the airplane, I know you can never come back to the United States, but could you come help me out?" I know with no doubt in my mind this guy'd be on the plane, Darren.
I think what happens, Bruno, I've done a long time in prison in this country. I've done, just like you, the majority of my life in prison, long sentences. And in them pressurized environments, the people you connect with, it sort of makes that brotherhood energy a lot more potent and stronger, doesn't it? And when you disconnect, when I've done it myself, I've seen people 10 years later, and straight away it's a hug. You can feel the warmth, you can feel the energy reconnecting straight away, can't you? And I think you only get that sort of connection when you're in a pressurized, like enclosed space, like a prison establishment, isn't it?
Man, absolutely, man. And Darren, I don't know your story. I didn't know, who I was coming to talk to, but much respect to you, brother. I didn't know, you did much of your life locked up. A lot of times now, everybody's got this YouTube thing going on, and Sean's invited me 50 times, and sometimes I don't do it because I don't know. I like telling my story, and if I could reach one person, if one person looks at me and says, "Damn, I don't want to be like this guy," you know what I mean? And it means so much to know that a guy like you done a lot of time. You could do this, and much respect to you, man. That's it's brilliant, man, that we could come out and. There's only very few of us, man. There's people that never get it and end up right back in. So you got my respect for that, Darren. I didn't know that about you.
Thanks a lot, mate. And I appreciate your compliment there very dearly. So we move on then, Bruno. You've met Sean. When did you depart company?
Well, there was a few times that I got real close to getting removed from there, but we were together, what, Sean, about 6-7 months, a good 6-7 months together before the I forgot her name again, before that cop got rid of me.
Yeah, so the Little Italy, there's a section in my book, Hard Time, about Little Italy,
Yeah.
and it did span over about half a year. It was the best time we had in the jail when these guys were running it, because that jail was fucking extreme. But then some other guards started to crack down on these guys, and a female guard sent Bruno to the loaf program in the max security jail run by Sheriff Joe Arpaio. You might be interested in hearing about the loaf program, Darren.
What was all that about then, Bruno? The loaf program, was it called a loaf, or is it LOAF meaning something?
No, it's well, the LOF means loss of food program. So this sadist piece of shit sheriff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those guys that'll sit here and tell you, oh, boo, we should be treated this way in prison. Look, it's fucking jail. It ain't your house. I get it. You know what I mean? Put you in pink fucking boxers, pink panties, pink fucking sheets. All that shit's just a head game. But you get in trouble in there, and I understand, they got a job to do, bro. Most of those COs and guards and everything, they're there for a paycheck just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Then you got the people that enjoy people's misery. That's what that Sheriff Joe Arpaio was. So forget about me fighting with people and this, that, and the other. I think I told the chick to go fuck herself. I don't know what I said. It's been a long time, but they moved me into the maximum security side of the jail where you lock down 24 hours a day in a roach-infested. Let me just set it up for you. So Madison Street Jail was condemned. It was shut down because of the conditions. And on the 3rd and 4th floor, he used to have his dog kennels in there. He used to take the the stray dogs. It was like a pound, you know what I'm saying? So the 3rd and 4th floor housed all the dogs. And then on the 6th floor, you had the loss of food program where you were locked down in a roach-infested, and I'm talking roach-infested, bro, and I'm not embellishing it. Sean will tell you, where you had to sleep with toilet paper in your ears, in your nose, and they would burn a loaf of bread with like carrots and whatever kind of vegetables and all this crap. They throw it in a blender. Then they'd bake this thing, and it would be about 3 or 4 pounds worth of just like a piece of bread that they would feed you twice a day because you're on discipline.
What year was this, Bruno?
2003, so 19 years ago.
Them American prisons sounds absolutely appalling, mate. Because in this country, you've got a thing what's called human rights, but you haven't got them in America, have you? When you go into prison,
we had Red Death.
Yeah. Tell him, bro. Tell him.
Red Death was the mystery meat slop that came in the evening that looked like carroty vomit blended with blood, all kinds of random meat in it, and occasionally there was a dead rat in it. One time we gave a rat back to the guards. We complained. They said they'd investigate. They come back later in the day and said it was just a potato, so the jail won't get in any trouble.
So, hey, Darren, this guy never bought any food for his inmates. He wouldn't buy food. He would only get it donated. And we would get all the donated cold cuts and potatoes, things like that. But everything was just ready to spoil. All the bread. I'm not sure if they cooked the bread there, Sean. Did they cook the bread? But it was always hard. It was always molded.
If it was stale, he made sure you were. Go on.
If it was stale, we put the bread in water to get it down. If it had the mold on it, we just scratched the mold off and ate the other side. I converted to the Hindu religion to try and get a better food, but all I got was a fucking peanut butter that was burnt in the morning with moldy bread. In the evening, a veggie burger and spuds. Veggie burger was as hard as a discus, and the breath, it gave me breath for like 3 days. If my girlfriend visited me, it was fucking embarrassing, whatever chemicals were in it. And the spuds, lesions and long strands of human hair in the spuds as well.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And
How
don't get it.
How long was you in that gaff then, Bruno? How long did you have to survive that for?
That was 10 days of the loaf program. Then they brought me back to Towers Jail, and they moved me to another pod because they broke up. They broke up all of my crew, and I'm pretty sure Roscoe was ready to go to prison. I was already sentenced as well to go to prison. And how long did you stay after us, Sean? How long were you there until you went to prison?
I didn't get sentenced until the beginning of my 3rd year.
Right.
Yeah, 3 years on remand.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, I bet it was worth. I bet it was worth sitting in there for them 3 years, as long as you never got the 200 years, what you were anticipating, innit?
Well, that was the thing, wasn't it? But the jail, it's extreme because in prison everyone's settled down the sentence, but the jail, bam, bam, people coming in, people coming out, homeless people coming in, gangbangers, people have been fights with the cops. Everyone's on crystal meth. Everyone's on heroin. It's fucking a madhouse, man.
Yeah, like a remand centre.
Ask Bruno about the gangs. You haven't even touched on the gangs.
Yeah, because I want to know about Bruno more than anything else. That's I'm intrigued about Bruno and his story and where he's at now. So you spent a lot of time in prison. You were going all different states in America. You were popping into them. Well, let's mention the gangs. Did you ever have any deep, volatile run-ins with any gangs?
Oh, absolutely. So, let me start back when I went to Colorado. So, Colorado, after I got sentenced in, I had court cases out of Colorado and California when I got sentenced in Arizona. So, coming from Arizona, going to Colorado after I'd been to prison, there was a lot of tension between me and the other white guys in Colorado. Don't ask me why. Everybody in prison, Darren, and I know you know this because you've been there, everybody's trying to prove something. When I walked into the prison in Colorado, I got approached by a white guy saying, "You're coming with us. You're going to live with this guy. You're going to do this. You're going to do that." And I think Sean could tell you the outcome of that without me even saying it. But I bucked at him, ended up scrapping with this guy who happened to be the head of this gang. And from there, Darren, it all went to shit, man. Every place I went, I got jumped on. Every place I went, basically nobody would talk to me, all because I was from Arizona. You know what I mean? Just total nonsense, brother. But it seems like everywhere I went, no matter what, being from New York, flying that Arizona flag, because, I lived there for a long time and I claimed it as my home. And all the different prison gangs, the Aryan Brotherhood, the MA, the Black Gorilla family, the Paisas, all of these different factions, man. It's all a perception. I don't know how it is in England, in the joint, but everybody's just scratching for that little bit more. You know what I mean? You're going to do this. You're going to tell me you're going to eat. You're not going to talk to this guy. That was the reason why me, Roscoe, Carlo, and a few other people that, were in the Maricopa County Jail told the Aryan Brotherhood, "Fuck you, man. We ain't doing that." You know what I mean? And it went from there. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's not just in one establishment, is it? They would have had contacts in every establishment, wouldn't they? So if you've damaged one in that prison, you're going to have to damage the next, and so on and so forth. Is there any division to do with religion in prisons? Is there, or is it just gang culture? Is there anything to do with like Islam, Christianity, and other religions? Is there any division there, or?
You know, that's a really good question, because when you watch these other shows like Locked Up Abroad and, you know, all these different countries, you know, I'm sure they have the gangs, but like you said, they have the Christians, they have this, they have that. Not so much in the United States, because truth be told, and Sean, you could probably you know, hit on this. If you show any type of, you know, hey, I want to read the Bible, let's go to Bible study. In the United States, in prison, that looks like you're weak. That looks like, you know, hey, he's going after, he's Bible thumping because he got locked up and he can't handle, you know, being with the crew guys that are the cool guys. Am I right, Sean?
Yeah, and there's also an interesting story that Bruno's got as well, because it's mostly Christian services, right? And you've even got people sleeved out with Jesus and Mary, and they're sat on the front row in the Christian services. So there was a Muslim services, and for the whites to go to the Muslim services was unheard of. And one day, the boss of Bruno's crew says, right, who wants to go to Muslim services out of the white boys with me today? We'll go, we'll speak to the imam, we'll find out what they're about. And this is something that like, when this got put in motion, the guards thought we were like a hit team, and the whole jail was put on stand for a riot. But Roscoe was such a good speaker. He went in and he spoke to the imam, and everything was cool. But the Aryan Brotherhood had a problem with that, because later on they were all grilling us, which white boys went to the Muslim services that day and all this shit. But Bruno, have you got anything to add to that?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you, Darren. So the reason we didn't go to Muslim services, number one, to, you know, catch a part of the Quran or whatever it was. Roscoe was always the strategist. He was always thinking, you know what I'm saying? Because we were so few of us that kind of took over this little part of the jail. He was always thinking ahead, like, if I go to the Muslim services and I make a couple of friends that happen to be Muslim, whether they're black, white, green, yellow, Chinese, whatever the hell they are, we could make like a little, you know, a little group, you know what I mean? So that's what it was about. And it was just a strategic move to see what everything was about, how many people were out there. Was there any other white guys that were out there that were feeling the same way we were against the Brotherhood, you know, stuff like that. So there was a reason behind it. But when the backlash of it, with all the white boys that were, you know, supposedly running the prison system, a couple of years later, when I was on one of the yards in Arizona, that came up, and some guy pulled up. I forget his name, Sean. They called him Boone. Guy named Boone. He was it. You remember Boone?
I remember.
Boone was in Maricopa County. He shows up, Darren. Oh yeah, Bruno and Roscoe, they went over to Muslim services. We should do something. So, you know, he stirred up the pot. You know what I mean? I ended up having to fight him. I beat the brakes off him, sent him going, but just that little stupid thing. We didn't do nothing wrong. We weren't bothering nobody. You know what I mean? That's how ridiculous the system was that we were sitting in, bro.
I was working out with a Mexican-American guy, and the Woods come out the cell. This is in the very beginning, and they're like, hey, Wood, come and have a word with us. And I'm looking at the guy I'm working out with, Snipe, and he's like, yeah, go and talk to your people. I go into the cell with these Nazis, and they're like, take a look around the day room, Wood. Do you see any of the other white boys working out with the other races? I'm like, nope. Like, you got a lot to learn, Wood. Now go finish your workout. The rules of racial division are strictly enforced.
Yeah, well, America is very racial in its own, whether you're inside or outside, isn't it? There's a lot of racial tension within that country as a whole, isn't there? So when was the last time you was in prison, Bruno? Well, you know, let's out to the conversation now. So when was the last time you went to prison?
So I ended up finishing up. So I went I was in Arizona prison. I was locked up in Arizona from '02 to '08. 2008, I ended up getting extradited to Colorado to answer for my charges there. Well, when I went to court, because I didn't get released from Arizona prison, I went ahead and got the credit for all the time I served in Arizona attached onto Colorado. So they let me out on parole in 2008 in Colorado for Arizona, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So I was on parole for Colorado and Arizona at the same time, but I also had probation to start after my sentence for Arizona, where I was going to be supervised in Colorado for Arizona once my parole ended. So my parole ends, I got my parole finished, my probation starts, and I decided that, I wasn't done. I wasn't done getting high. I wasn't done robbing people. I wasn't done, writing bad checks and stealing credit cards. So while I was on Arizona probation, I caught another case in Colorado for 5 years. So I did 6.5, got out for about 7 months, went back for another 5 in Colorado. And because I violated my probation in Arizona when I caught my Colorado case, guess what happened to me? Instead of getting out of Colorado, I got extradited back to Arizona again to finish out my probation time. So I got out of prison finally from 2002. I got out of prison July 22nd, 2014.
And have you been out since?
No, sir. So
I shouldn't be laughing really, should I? Because it destroys you, doesn't it?
Oh,
the things that you miss out on when you're incarcerated, the things that people take for granted in the free world, we really need and want, don't we, in our lives? And when you see other people not taking and being grateful for what they've got on the outside world, it does my head in. How about you? When was the last time you was in prison? The last.
Me?
Yeah.
So, the last time I was in prison was July 21st, 2014. I got out July 22nd, 2014. They let me out in Arizona. Like I had mentioned before, I had lost my mother. My father's been dead for years. So I had my brother living in Mississippi and my sister living in Las Vegas. I got out of prison on that day with $20 in my pocket and a pair of shorts on my body. And like I said to you before, I was sitting there after my mother passed away, and I said, I'm never doing this again. I'm not going to be locked up again. So I got out, and I asked my brother and sister for a couple of $100. They sent me a few $100, got myself into a halfway house. I paid a week's rent, bought myself some clothes from the thrift store, and I got a job. I had no transportation. I had no tools. I was still an electrician, but I wasn't able to get a job, doing any type of trade because I had nothing. And a friend of mine that when I was leaving prison, he said, call my uncle. My uncle runs a furniture factory, for a children's furniture factory. He'll give you a job. So I took a job for $7 an hour that I had to get to at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I would leave the halfway house on a mountain bike and mountain bike for 2.5 hours to the job. I did that for 4.5 months until I saved up enough money to get myself a car. And I did that.
Since then, you've went on this little journey of life, and you said earlier on you went into building your own home now.
Well, so after working a few months, doing whatever I could, saving my money, I got back into the electricians union. I ended up getting an electrical job and started saving my money. I got custody of my daughter. I bought my first house in Arizona 2.5 years after I got out of prison. I stayed in that house from 2017 to 2020. In that time, I was working for a roadway electric company out there. They taught me how to be a crane operator, a traffic signal technician. You know, that was along with me being a journeyman electrician. So in 2020, I decided that I was going to take everything that I had saved, sold my house, and I moved down to Mississippi next door to my brother. Built a home, and this is where I'm at now, brother.
Are you
Well done,
content?
brother.
Are you content in life now? Are you feeling you're at a place where you know you can sort of relax yourself within life instead of anticipating prison again?
Well, that's a really good question, man, because you know, I don't think you ever really heal from what we've been through. I know I'm just speaking for myself. The amount of trauma and stress that you go through when you're locked up and you have to watch your back every day, no matter how much success or how much more comfortable you are in your skin and, you know, where you're at working with your job and, you know, your company and whatever it is you're doing, you're never able to just be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Sean? I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life. I have a company I run, I work, I do whatever I can to make my life better and make myself comfortable. But I've never healed from all of this. The drug addiction, the prison, never. So I'm a mess. I'm a nightmare.
I know what you're saying, Bruno, but I'm exactly the same. I've never really had a crazy drug addiction, but I've done a lot of prison in my life. And as you say, without you realising it, you're picking up a lot of traumatic experiences there that you sort of bury. And then when you do get into this life without crime and you do have them peaceful spaces, in them peaceful spaces, that's when you start, you do as a big, powerful, strong man, you get emotional, you have your moments, you know, it's very depressive at times, but the fact that you're continuing to go on and remain free from prison is very inspirational, isn't it? And that's what I'm all about, seeing people that are strong enough to turn their back on the system, turn their back on that life of crime, and just start living the life as comfortable as they can, even though within the mind and within the heart, we're still suffering with that trauma and we're still suffering with them experiences. And that's similar to what I do. I just try and scream at the youth of this country to swerve the system, because once you're in that system, they take your life off you and they continue to take your life off you. And what I keep screaming is choose your life, not a knife, in the sense of don't let the government take any more of your life away from you. Stay away from prison, because you don't realise later on when you do mature, if you're lucky enough to get free from prison, because there's thousands that aren't, if you're lucky enough to get free, you've got to start repairing yourself. And when you're going through that repairing process, you're going through a lot of traumatic stress and emotions and depression and stress, and it can make you antisocial at times and it can make you pro-social. It makes you very sacrificial with individuals that the majority of the time they want to look out for you and they want to show you love, but because of what you've been through, you're just cutting them out. I don't know whether that's the same with you, but that's what it's like with me.
It's exactly, you just explained my whole life in one sentence. And you know, I look at Sean, I look at you, I look at people that, I mean, I am so proud of this guy that, you know, and just talking to you for this 45, 50 minutes already, Darren, I see that you're a guy that I want to know. You see, I'm proud of Sean because I know where he's been. I know what he's done. I know that he could have easily, one of his rave parties, got friggin' crazy, pulled a gun out, shot somebody, killed him, and we'd never see him doing what he's doing. The message that he's putting out, the educated commentary that this guy is putting out on his channel. And from what you sound like, Darren, the same thing, man. We have to be so proud of ourselves because these three people right here on the screen, There's 300,000 more in there that can't get where we are. And you're right, man. We are lucky just to be alive and to be here, man.
It takes a lot of if you're used to a certain life of fast cash, getting what you want when you want it, taking it if you need it, to turn your back on that, to turn your back on the people involved in that, you know, the people you've grew up with, the people you've been around all your life, to be able to turn that, it takes a lot of strength. And there's a lot of people that try it, and there's a lot of people that fail, and there's only the rare few that succeed in, if you like, rehabilitating themselves, because the prison system doesn't rehabilitate you. You know, you've got to do that with your own self-strength and your self-awareness, haven't you?
Right. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And this, you never measure the success of a man by what he has materialistically. You know, it's always about how he treats his family and how he, you know, gets up after he gets knocked down on the ground. And, you know, my daughter, unfortunately, she went through everything a kid should never have to go through. Me being locked up, she was in foster care facilities. And, you know, she was basically locked up like I was, Darren. And you know what? The other night she called me, which she calls me every day. I'm a grandfather now. She's married to a guy in the Air Force that I love like my own son. They have a nice house in California. You know what I mean? A successful little life. And what she told me, simple little statement. She says, Dad, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you that you came back from this. And I turned around and I told her, I says, you know what, Gina? You're the best thing that ever happened to me, because without you, I would have never turned my life around. But just to get that phone call from her and know that she feels that way, I'm a friggin' success, man.
That's a beautiful thing, brother.
It's the truth.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's like all over the world now, you've got these establishments that are big business, these prisons, the big business now, you know, they're all private company running stuff like this. And the majority of kids that are outside the fences while the dads are inside the fences is horrendous. And I don't think the dads are realising the damage they're doing to the children if they get themselves placed in custody for any amount of time. Them years away from your daughter can absolutely leave your child traumatic and make them wanting something that's not there all the time. It's cruel, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, on the back of that, though, Bruno. So you're in your 50s now, mate. You know, you've had a lot of experience. You've gained a lot of knowledge from that experience. What in a short few words, what would your advice be to anyone in life? What would it be, especially young men that are participating in crime and ending up in prison and ruining the family connections and stuff? What would your single bit of advice be?
Man, it's so hard, because it's hard to sum it up. You know, I'm a firm believer in, if you're done, you're done. You know, if you're not ready, you're not ready. But for somebody who's looking at me, somebody who sees me locked up my whole life, addicted to drugs, everything that you could lose when you're away, I lost, you know, I would just say, give yourself a break. You know what I mean? Think that you can have a good life. There's a good life out there. And I know, you know, when you're not done, Darren, everything falls on deaf ears. I don't care what you try to tell somebody. If they're going to want to do drugs until they're done, they're not going to listen. But if anybody could take anything from me, you know, it took me till I was 46 years old to finally get it, that I never want to have handcuffs on me again. I never want my freedom taken away. I never want to have my daughter in a bad situation. I just want to live a life. Just give yourself a break. Know that there's a great life out here. And if I can do it, Sean can do it, Darren can do it, you can do it, man.
Powerful last little speech, you know. Well,
thank you.
Initially, when we were coming into this, we were going to have a little 10-minute chat before we came in. Due to situations out of our hand, we just had to go all out. I've appreciated you coming on. It's been very insightful into the prison system and how way life is in America and over the seas there. I've got nothing but respect for you, mate. I admire what you've been through. I admire what you've got through, and good on you for turning your life around, because I know how difficult it is to do. And the fact that I'm sitting here with other people that's done it is magnificent. Ignore Sean going dark. He always has to change his battery about an hour in.
Right. Darren, thank you. Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it. And if you ever need anything, you know what I mean? If you want to give me a call, if I could do anything for you, same Sean, you know, my longest love and respect to both of you. Anytime you want to have me, I'll be more than happy. Thank you very much.
Bruno, the viewers are asking,
yes,
when are you going to come to England, and if you're going to start your own YouTube channel?
Brother, I own an electrical business. I'm partners in a truck company. I don't know how much time. No, I've been afraid with the whole passport thing. We got our passports, and we're gonna make a trip out there when I come. You're gonna be my first stop, Darren. I would love to come see you.
I'll be round Sean, mate. So I'm sure you'll see the both of us at the same time, probably.
Sean, let's get together on the YouTube channel, man. But please keep more in touch with me, brother. You know what I mean? I know
absolutely.
I'm off. I'm flaky, but thank you for having me, man. It's always good to see you.
Much love and respect, brother. You've been on fire tonight. This has been brilliant.
Thanks a lot, Bruno, mate. You have a nice evening, brother. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Much love.
Take care, brother. What a guy, man. What a
magnificent,
guy.
Very powerful conversation there, I suggest. What time is it?
Bruno,
for an hour and 12. So it was decent at the beginning. I thought it was going to be another Chet Sandu, but obviously it got corrected. He moved location. I think he went from his house and then got a better Wi-Fi signal in his vehicles.
Yeah, that's what he does. So that's why I didn't sweat it, because every time I've interviewed Bruno, there's been a bit of Wi-Fi situation, and then he's fixed it at the very last minute.
Well, it is what it is. It's another Boss Live, I feel. I think it was an insight into another life that's been through a mess and managed to come out on the other side. So it's inspirational, isn't it, when you look at it in that way. The fact that he's had an addiction from an early age. He went into the military to try and conquer it. He's come out the military, fell right back into it. As you say, it's like the majority of young adults or teenagers were influenced by the elder gangsters, aren't we? Like the elder drug dealers. He calls them the wise men, but in this country, it's the organised crime groups. And there's a lot of youth that are getting wound up in that influential aspect of materialistic bullshit, aren't they? There's too many in what's going on, isn't there?
We call it gangsteritis.
Gangsteritis, gangsterism, fucking bellends, or whatever you want to fucking say. But as we move forward, Sean, are you okay to stay on for a little 20 minutes, or do you want to shut shop? It's up to you, mate.
No, of course, Darren. You got people asking in the chat what we're going to do next, because we possibly got a double whammy lined up for tomorrow, but I don't know how much you want to reveal.
Well, let's just say tomorrow night from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Hopefully, we've got someone who got an IPP prison sentence, has managed to sort his life out, get out of prison, remain free, and he's very insightful in his own little ways from the Northeast. We've then got a prison guard on, which will be another, I normally only speak to prison guards that was in jail with me. This time we'll be able to have a different narrative, understand how their lives are and how they conduct themselves and so on and so forth. So if everything goes to plan tonight from 8 o'clock, we're going to be on till 10 o'clock. From 8 to 9, we'll have one guest. From 9 to 10, we'll have another guest. So it's going to be another powerful night, I suppose. How far do you think? What I don't like doing, Sean, I don't like putting anything, especially when it's StreamYard and you're relying on other individuals to complete the puzzle, if you like. I don't really like putting any in stone in case they don't turn up. They've been mentioned, they've been made aware of, most people, I'm not saying like everyone, but some people are happy with just that mention and, you know, a little bit of, oh, who's this? So people go and inquire about them. So I think it's best we don't speak about the names in case you get my rats and your rats out there will try and contact them and sabotage the process. So it's best we keep that to ourselves and just like tonight, the people who follow me, some people that follow you that are on this live feed, they didn't know what to expect. They just knew there was a guest. And when they've come on, we've had a powerful guest. He's, you know, he was full of energy. He was full of, you know, experience. And I think it was another good night. What do you think, people? If you can hit the like button to let us know that you liked it, or put a 1 in your comments to see if you like that type of content. But as Sean said, tomorrow night, hopefully from 8 till 10, we're going to have 2 separate guests, one from 8 till 9, one from 9 till 10. They're both powerful guests. They're both, you know, they both got their own stories. They're both from different sides of the fences. You know, some jumped the fence, but it is what it is. It's going to be powerful tomorrow night, just like it is tonight. All the ones are coming up, so I'm guessing you like it. Do you want to add to that, Sean?
Yeah, if the viewers have got any guest suggestions, put them in the live chat, and me and Darren will discuss them, and we'll see what we can do.
What I'd like to speak about, who would like to speak about, Sean, is like more people that have worked in prison. I'd like to get an insight into, you know, the workings within the prison, not from the view of a prisoner or an inmate, but from the prisoner from the view of a guard or a prison officer and so on and so forth. But I'm up for any inmate. I can have a conversation with anyone. I can ask questions and, you know, construct a conversation with anyone. It doesn't matter what walk of life they're from. I think I'm quite adept at doing this type of content, if you like.
I can get us a governor, Darren, and that governor had a thing going with Purple Aki was creating some situations for this governor.
What, intimidation and threats and getting her stalked and stuff?
Well, I think she better tell the story herself. It's just like...
Yeah, it'll be better. So if you can arrange that, Sean, that's another one for the future, isn't it? Obviously, we're coming up to Christmas. There's going to be a lot of people that are busy, so you might reach out to people and they're just going to be too busy for a little hour here and a little hour there. But I can see this going places, Sean. I can see it getting very, very powerful. I can see it starting to, you know, go in the right direction. I'm very satisfied with what's going on. I appreciate what you're doing for me as always. I think I don't tell you enough, but it is what it is. I'm not here to suck the farts out of your ass and play You'll Never Walk Alone on your farts things, but you know what I'm saying, don't you?
It's all good, brother. We've got momentum on this. The viewers are loving it. You bring out a different side of people, so it makes it way more interesting.
Well, did you hear anything different out of Bruno there than what you've heard in your own?
Loads. Half of it, more than half of it, was stuff I've never heard before.
Good stuff.
You brought out a really good side of him, and everyone in the chat was loving it.
Well, that's what it's about, people. It's about the people in the chat enjoying what they're watching, feeling like they're part of it. I know I haven't commented much to the comments, but as you always know, when there's company on the platform, you just don't get left aside. I'm just involved in what we're speaking about an awful lot, and I feel like looking at them on the screen, they're sat on my bed watching me or something. Well, not on my bed, but that's what. Well, my bed's my couch. Anyway, so it is what it is, people. And obviously, Sean, it was what it was. The good man Wildman came into the picture. You know, you could see, you can just see it in your face, mate. The minute his fucking name's mentioned, it is what it is, mate. It's deep. It's very deep when you've lost someone who's like your right arm, been through so many situations, conducted so many interviews and podcasts with them, travelled all over the fucking country. It is what it is. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a huge gap to fucking fill, isn't it, mate? And I believe that's why you've got fucking 6 co-hosts. Do you understand what I mean? There's a massive gap to fill and you're filtered with 6 other people. So it is what it is. Do you watch the football?
I don't watch anything. I'm all just doing all this stuff all the time.
Bogged down in work. I wish I was like you, lad. I wish you had fucking work popping out my ears, mate. But I'll get there one day, hopefully. Kevin Mooney can't invite people on read comments to would be ignorant. Calnach UK, you know that, mate. I couldn't be having Bruno on there and then going, oh, I had David Joseph, I had GV Games, I had Tony Mack Tyson. I couldn't be doing that, as they said. If I was in a conversation in a cafe with someone and everyone's coming in, I couldn't be going, now then. It's just outright rude, innit? So, you know, you've got to respect your guests, just like you've got to respect me subscribers and me members and people like this. It's fantastic to have everyone in here feeling the positivity. I want to cut it short, Sean, but I don't, you know. I don't normally do it. It's 20 past. We'll go to half past, yeah? Should we take a few questions?
I'm going to have to get going in a minute, Darren, because I've been out all day.
Well, that's what I mean.
Things.
It's going on to 21 minutes past. We'll go till 30 minutes past if that's okay. 90-minute section.
I think I'm going to get going now, Darren, because I've got a few little things I've got to do.
It looks like you need to run the toilet. Well, Sean, I'll speak to you. I'll speak to you offline, mate, in a more private arena. Thanks for coming on as always. Thanks for getting Bruno on board, and whatever you're up to tonight, bless out, mate. Keep it real.
Thank you, brother. Much love and respect. I'll catch up with you in the morning.
Bye-bye,
cheers.
Mate.
Bye.
So there you go, people. I hope you liked it. Jane Everton, do you like it? David Joseph, was it good? Ricky Swain. RSK, good night, Darren and Sean. Great stream, lads. Brian Jones, showing respect. All right, lads. So I think that's my cue to go as well, then, innit, people? As always, I haven't been on of a Saturday night for quite a while due to my loved ones coming up of a weekend. With it getting close to Christmas, and my loved ones have got family commitments and stuff. It's important that she has a little rest this weekend, especially when our baby's due in the next couple of weeks. It's important she gets as much rest as possible. So that's why he's got a live with me tonight. Obviously, Sunday night is normally a peaceful hour. Sunday night is normally just me on the screen. But it looks like tomorrow night we're going to have a double whammy, two guests back to back, 8 till 9, 9 till 10. It's going to be interesting, people. I hope you can all lock in. I hope you can all like the feed. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you want to go that little bit further, become a member. Peace out. L5 shout. Choose a life, not a knife. As always, Darren Gee on the Real Crime, Real Time podcast.
Chet Sandhu's book is finally available worldwide on Amazon. He's one of our most viral podcast guests ever. The book is called Self-Made, Dues Paid, an Asian kid who became an international drug smuggling gangster. Do you want to read some of the back, Jen?
Yeah, go the blurb. In 1999, Chet Sandhu was arrested at gunpoint in Alicante Airport for smuggling the largest quantity of illicit pharmaceutical drugs in Spanish history. Interesting. Overnight, he went from living in the shadows of the Costa del Crime's underworld to being labelled a notorious supervillain in the international press. Incarcerated alongside murderers, rapists, and terrorists in a super maximum security wing. He had to navigate a world of murderous knife fights, prison breaks, drug taking, and high-stake power plays. Good bedtime read.
In Self-Made, Dues Paid, learn how a British-born Asian kid with disabilities, raised in a corner shop, emerged as a protector of his family from racist thieves and hooligans. Be prepared to be entertained, informed and offended by Chet's no-holes-barred account of raves, drugs, bodybuilding, entering the fashion industry. Did you know that he dated Kylie Minogue and Naomi Campbell?
Latest interview.
Working the doors and life in one of the world's deadliest places to be incarcerated. If you enjoyed Chet's podcast series with us, there's a lot more detail in the book. Check it out. Worldwide on Amazon, ebook, paperback, and audiobook.